Product photography can be very complex and sophisticated, especially when you're exercising precise control over several lighting sources and reflectors. This is something that you might need for high-end commercial advertising. Of course, product photography can also be very simple, which is the approach that you might want to take if you've got a low budget or some real time constraints. And if you're just in need for some photos for your online shop or for some eBay listings, then the simple approach is probably best. And I'm going to show you how to create simple product shots with just one light. Now, even though we're taking the simple approach to product photography here, the goals are still important. We want good product representation. We want to make sure that we show clear details of the product. We're looking for consistency across all of your product shots. And that might mean in a line of products or all the products in your online store or your sales page or your eBay listing. Also, I think it's important to keep the product photography simple, and that means a simple lighting setup and a simple camera placement. Now, as far as lighting goes, I'm going to recommend a good constant light source. You're going to get a what you see is what you get advantage over flash that way. Now, some tutorials will recommend using window light. It's a good natural light source, but you're restricted to the conditions outside and the time of day. If you're using your own light, you've got control of that, so you can take your pictures any time of day or night and maintain that consistent look. Also, make sure that you're using a light source that allows you to adjust its power and gives you good color rendition. Now, for the lighting setup that I'm going to show you, we're going to be using an inexpensive shoot-through umbrella. Now, you could use a large softbox that, if you want to soften the shadows a bit, but I kind of like the look of an umbrella for this kind of photography because you do want a little bit of contrast so that the viewer can make out the shape and texture of the products. So lots of times people think that no shadows is a good thing, but not always, especially in product photography. And while we're on the subject of shadows, I suggest that you not fight the shadows on the ground plane where your product is sitting. You need a little bit of shadow there so that things don't look like they're floating in white space. That just looks a little weird. All right, so now let's talk about the technique and the supplies that you're going to need for this little setup that I'm going to show you. Okay, because we need somewhere to set up our products, we're going to start with a simple table like this. We're going to use 3 foam core boards. I'm going to start by setting up this backboard. We'll place the product surface next. Then I'm going to place this third board on the side, which is really more of a fill light reflector. I've got my constant light source here, and like I said, I'm using a shoot-through umbrella as the modifier. Next, we just set up our camera on a tripod. I'm going to place my product and assess the light and shadow pattern. What we're striving for is consistency. So as we place each product, we kind of want to place it in the same spot. Next, we're going to frame up the shot in the camera, and just keep in mind that we don't want to get too close to the product with a really wide angle because that can cause a weird kind of distortion. As far as focal length goes, try normal or telephoto. Try to get all or most of the grounding shadow in the frame, and don't worry too much about the background. You're probably going to have to do a little adjustment to the lighting and clean some of this up in post anyway. Depending on how you correct for color, you might want to place a gray card or some type of target for color and contrast adjustments. If you're using a white background, you can always make quick white balance adjustments using the eyedropper in something like a Lightroom. Remember to use an appropriate depth of field. Now, you might want to use a shallow depth of field for effect, but lots of times you want to capture as much detail as possible, so don't go too shallow. Also, get multiple angles and details and parts of your products. This can be really helpful on sales pages that allow you to use more than one picture. Finally, take what you shot and bring it into Lightroom and or Photoshop to finish it up. Now, instead of using this approach where you've got the ground plane and a hard line between that and the back surface, some people like to use a sweep. And you can easily do that with a poster board. And of course, you can also use seamless paper. You can also use different colors, maybe even patterns. Now, in this example, we've kept it simple, but you can always throw in a second light if you want a little more control over the shadow side of your product. Now, you may have heard of a different solution for something like this. They sell these product lighting tents that come with, they're sort of box shaped. You're shooting into a box. They've got translucent material around the sides and maybe the top. And they sometimes supply these little LED lights that you can light your subject with. These come in all different price points, and I'm not entirely sure you're going to get better results using something like that. I think this approach is a lot simpler. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed these tips. I think this is going to give you a nice, simple, and consistent approach to your product photography. If you're on a budget, I think this is definitely the way to go. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe. Leave a comment. If you've got some tips on product photography, I would love to hear them. That's about it for today. See you next time.